Archaeologists say that Vancouver Island has been inhabited by the Coast Salish people for at least 11,000 years. Coast Salish does not refer to one specific tribe, but many tribes that speak the same related language. Songhees are the name of the people that inhabited the Victoria area. This is a pit house, or kalkuli, and is what the coastal people would have lived in. To make a pit house, a hole was dug in the ground about 1 meter deep. Then, logs were laid over top of it in a cone shape and smaller branches over that. Last, dirt and mud was caked on top to make it as waterproof as possible, and a gap was left at the very top so that smoke from the fire could get through. The coastal people dug their houses half below ground to ensure maximum warmth. Before contact, the Coast Salish people had plenty of food available. They ate deer, bear, sea mammals, whales, and vast quantities of fish and shellfish from the Strait of Georgia. They also ate edible fruits, nuts, berries, and plants.
Clothing-wise, the coastal people wore little clothing, made generally from cedar and animal furs. During the summer, when weather allowed, they wore even less, and the men went naked. Seeing as the ocean was a major source of food, the indigenous people of British Columbia got really good at fishing. The fish were caught using small nets woven of nettle fibers attached to a wooden frame. They also used underwater traps and harpoons. For storage, they used baskets. They didn't use any metal, and instead, rocks were used for hammers, weights for nets, as well as many other uses. Chert, obsidian, and basalt were used for arrows and spears, as well as cutting tools and scrapers. The Coast Salish showed many examples of stewardship. One example of this was their first food ceremony. They respected and honored traditional foods such as water, elk, and salmon. At the first salmon ceremony, the bones of the salmon were returned to the water. This showed that the salmon were well treated and they were welcome back the next year. The Coast Salish people also honored and celebrated the western red cedar tree. It was known as the Tree of Life because it provided materials for houses, clothing, tools, canoes, as well as baskets.
The Coast Salish culture is still alive today. Potlatch, a social ceremony to strengthen intertribal relationships, still goes on today. This ceremony is also used to distribute wealth through territories and confirm the power of the village chief. There are many Salish festivals, including traditional music and food. The names of many towns, rivers, bays, and park areas go by the original name they were given by the Coast Salish people. You can find a blessing in Lekwungen, the language spoken by the Songhees, on a mural at Ogden Point. Despite the fact that many sources say Aboriginal people were all equal, this is untrue. Coastal people had 3 classes: upper, lower, and slaves. Each family was ranked, and the chief was from the most powerful and prestigious family. Each village had a chief to ensure that all members of his lineage were equally provided for. Although most indigenous groups did not go by this standard, it was coastal rule that the wife moved to the husband's village, where her father determined her rank. Coast Salish borders ran from the lower mainland through the Strait of Georgia and across the lower half of Vancouver Island. The Coast Salish people had many myths and stories about animals.
The whale represents intelligence, kindness, as well as compassion. It was known to help helpless or wounded people. It was also a symbol of romance because whales mate for life.
The bear symbolized strength and was an important part of the family crest. It was thought that bears could understand human speech and thoughts.
The salmon represented instinct, determination, persistence, renewal, wealth, as well as prosperity.
The raven was a trickster that taught about life and the difference between right and wrong. He was also curious and greedy. Coast Salish people have inhabited Vancouver Island since 9000 BC. Their culture was based on seasons and the natural world, and the earth was the ultimate resource. This unique group of people and their way of life may seem lost, but there are still many fighting to keep it alive.